We've been talking about inheritance tax and how the government are looking into it, and it's something that Rishi Sunak might want to scrap entirely. But Jeremy Hunt, earlier this week, said tax cuts will be virtually impossible until the economy improves. So which one is it? He said the country's high levels of debt have left him with very difficult decisions for the autumn statement in November. This comes as the nation's borrowing reaches levels not seen since the early 1960s. So is he right? Are tax cuts virtually impossible? Let's speak to former Bank of England and UK Treasury advisor, Dr. Roger Gewolb. Hi, Roger. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It'd be great to get your expertise on this. So we've got the prospect of the scrapping of inheritance tax altogether, or at least thresholds being tinkered with to save people money. But then Jeremy Hunt saying, oh no, tax cuts, impossible. We can't possibly with the state of the debt and with the state of economic growth. What do you say?
What, a contradiction in the Tory party? That's impossible. What I say is that we've been here before. If you remember, first of all, let me say that early morning last Thursday on this channel, I made a prediction against all the pundits and experts saying otherwise, that the Bank of England would not raise interest rates, and they didn't. And I'm going to make another prediction now, again as an outlier, I guess, which is that despite everything that Jeremy says, we are going to see massive tax cuts leading up to and before a general election. We certainly can afford it. Not only do you have Jeremy saying we can't, and then Rishi at the same time saying, oh, well, let's give away £7 billion for inheritance tax to woo some blue wall voters. Of course we can afford it. I go back to last November, I was saying, when you'll remember Jeremy did this before and softened us all up with the £55 billion black hole, if you recall, which had to be filled immediately, and half of that was tax raises. And he introduced mainly stealth taxes for half of that money. And a couple of days later, the black hole, the other 30 million, which was supposed to be public service cuts, disappeared. And a lot of think tanks came out and said, we don't have a £55 billion black hole. We actually have a £30 billion surplus. So I think there's plenty of money around. And what's actually really happened is that Rishi has woken up to just how unpopular his party has become. The blue and red voters who gave Boris his 80 seats are certainly not around. Many Tory voters, long-term, lifetime Tory voters, are just very dissatisfied with the last 13 years. And they've made so many mistakes that up until a week or so ago, you could have put a highly taxed cigarette paper between them and the Labour Party. You couldn't have squeezed it in. And now, in the past week, you'll note that Rishi has sort of put some clear blue water between them on net zero. Roger, Angela Rayner has put some clear blue.
Yeah, Roger, just to go back to whether we can afford the tax cuts, can we really? Because we are sitting in a huge pile of national debt. The demands on the public purse are just enormous, and they seem to be ever growing, whether it's the NHS, whether it's pensions, whether it's welfare. We have 2.4 people on out-of-work benefits. We then have a transport. Our infrastructure projects are always going completely over budget. So can we actually afford to give away tax cuts? Can we really?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was getting an echo there, so that sort of disrupted things. Yes, we can. I mean, it depends what figures you look at. And there are a number of think tanks that point out that the way the national debt is being calculated now is quite different than the way Rishi was calculating when he was chancellor. And the mere fact that he's willing to spend £7 billion on the rich, effectively, when what he should be doing is raising the tax threshold, if he wants to give away money, from £12,000 to £20,000 a year, so that people who don't earn very much money aren't dragged into the tax net as prices and wages rise.
Well, it's lifting the tax threshold to £20,000. That would go down very nicely with most people. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Roger. We're going to have to end it there, but thank you, as ever, for your expertise there. Former Bank of England and UK Treasury advisor, Dr. Roger Gewolb. Always great to speak to him. Joe, he's